Aloha and good afternoon on this Wednesday, everyone. Thank you for watching This Is Now. Dylan has the day off. We want to give you a live look now at the state capitol. We are awaiting a press conference by Governor Josh Green. He is expected to sign 10 bills into law today to address homelessness and expand affordable housing access here in Hawaii. Now, we know that homelessness is an important issue to the governor, something he's very passionate about. During his State of the State address back in January, he signed an emergency proclamation at that very moment, to address homelessness by streamlining the construction process for select housing projects. Now, he is also a big proponent that we know of these kauhale villages made up of tiny homes. Governor Green has said his administration wants to build at least 12 of these kauhale statewide, and a temporary kauhale site was constructed last month in a parking lot at the state health department for individuals who are discharged from the hospital but need a place to rest and recover. Again, this is a live look at the governor's office, where he will be signing 10 bills into law today. And as we await this, we will take a look at some of our other big headlines today. So the Department of Justice is trying to stop the deposition of a top Navy official in a lawsuit against the government over the Red Hill tainted water crisis. Our Mahealani Richardson was at that hearing and has more. All right, Mahia, so what happened in the hearing today?
Well, the government is trying to quash a deposition of Admiral Samuel Paparo. He is the commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, and he was the lead during the Red Hill water crisis in 2021. He was the one who answered all of the questions in the news conference in terms of what happened at Red Hill that caused the water to be contaminated by fuel. And so the government is trying to quash the plaintiffs, because the plaintiffs want to be able to hear from him. They want to question him in a deposition. And so the government, the U.S. Department of Justice, is saying that the U.S. has already admitted negligence in the Red Hill water crisis, and that any testimony or deposition from Admiral Paparo is irrelevant. But the attorneys for the plaintiffs, those are the people who are suing the U.S. government, say that he is a pivotal figure and that he was the head of the remediation of Red Hill and communications. One important thing that they're bringing up is that there was a lag in communications. Apparently, commanders knew about the smells and the odors from all of these complaints, but a day later, they still said there was no evidence that there was any problem in the water.
And didn't the Admiral just get a really big promotion?
That's right. So he has been nominated by the Defense Secretary to be the Chief of Naval Operations. That's the highest leader in the Navy. And so right now his nomination is in the White House, and it's being considered by President Biden. Reportedly, President Biden has not made a decision yet.
So, Mahia, was there a decision today?
So for the judge, this is in federal court, the judge said that he'll take all sides into consideration. He's hoping to issue a ruling very soon, hopefully before the weekend.
Okay, and you spoke with some of the plaintiffs. There was some sign waving before the hearing today about the lawsuit. What was their reaction?
Well, the plaintiffs, obviously, they want to hear from Admiral Paparo, because they want to hear as much as possible about what the government did, why it failed to warn people about the fuel in the water. And I spoke with one woman whose twins are still feeling the impacts of the fuel crisis. In fact, she showed me some pictures, and her daughter still has recurring problems with her eyes. She has these really swollen eyes and rashes, and it even looks like burns. And so it was very emotional for them to be at this hearing. And so we're going to be hearing from them in our later newscasts.
And we reported yesterday that this lawsuit has grown significantly. Do we expect it to grow even more?
Well, Michael Green, who's a local Honolulu attorney, he has hundreds of plaintiffs. Right now, the biggest law firm, which is on the continental U.S., has about 1,500 claimants. There's about 300 plaintiffs. There's lawsuits coming from every which direction. So it's a little hard to keep track of, but this particular one, these plaintiffs are suing the government for negligence.
All right, Mahealani Richardson, keeping an eye on everything for us on the Red Hill tainted water crisis. Thank you, Mahea.
Thank you.
A United Airlines flight headed to Hawaii had to turn around and make an emergency landing in Los Angeles. The crew reported smoke on the flight deck around 30 minutes after takeoff, according to the FAA. United Airlines said smoke was also reported in the cabin. Los Angeles City firefighters responded to the tarmac as a precaution, and officials say the plane landed without any additional issues. No injuries were immediately reported. United says passengers deplaned at the gate normally, and the airline is making arrangements to get customers to their destinations as soon as possible. A jury has found a Hawaii Island man guilty of murder and arson following a deadly shooting in May 2021. Prosecuting attorneys said 29-year-old Ioane Asagra shot and killed Joey Richmond at an area known as End of the World. Police say Richmond's vehicle, which had been removed from the scene, was found the next morning burnt in an embankment on Kealaokeawe Road. Meanwhile, the court ordered Asagra to return for a hearing next week where a jury will determine whether he should be subject to an extended term and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Asagra remains in custody and has been denied bail. Coast Guard officials say efforts to locate underwater noises, possibly connected to that submersible that's been missing since Sunday, have been unsuccessful, but they say there is still reason to be hopeful. Roxana Saberi reports from Boston.
The U.S. Coast Guard says crews looking for the missing Titan vessel are racing to pinpoint the source of underwater sounds detected in the search zone.
We need to have hope, right? But I can't tell you what the noises are. But what I can tell you is, and I think this is the most important point, we're searching where the noises are, and that's all we can do at this point.
Coast Guard officials said they could not confirm reports that banging sounds were detected 30 minutes apart, something that was giving hope to friends of Titanic expert Paul-Henri Nargeolet, one of the 5 people on board.
P.H. Nargeolet would do something like that to keep to let people know that they're there.
The submersible is owned by the company OceanGate. It was on its way to visit the wreckage of the Titanic on Sunday when it went missing.
3 more vessels arrived on scene on Wednesday to help with the search, including one that has side-scanning sonar capabilities.
We currently have 5 surface assets searching for the Titan, and we expect 10 total surface assets to search in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Once located, retrieving the submersible in time presents another challenge, with oxygen expected to run out by Thursday morning.
Part of my mind was going, well, this could be the end.
The Simpsons writer Mike Reese took the underwater trip almost a year ago and says passengers know the dangers.
You sign this long waiver that mentions possible death 3 times on the first page.
The Coast Guard says data about the noises has been shared with U.S. Navy experts for more analysis. Roxana Saberi, CBS News, Boston.
We're taking you to the state capitol now for another live look as Governor Josh Green signs 10 bills into law to address homelessness and housing.
Rental housing, to build new housing, to build public housing, we're going forward. And of course, some of the homeless solutions like you're seeing the Kauhali that's already up. So it's a good day, and this is going to remain our priority until we solve this problem. So a couple other points today. I'm thrilled to be signing several bills that expand our access to affordable housing. They provide assistance to families who are in trouble, who get displaced otherwise. And we've had this discussion. People sometimes leave Hawaii because they simply can't afford a house. Why do we not have enough nurses? Because we don't have enough housing. I've said this many times. Why do we not have enough teachers? They can't afford housing. We're trying to solve this from 2 directions. Pay people better, make housing more affordable. So really, I'm appreciative of all of the work that's been done. We're going to work not just this year, but next year and into the future to continue to build this solution. So first bill, and first, this is our housing crisis, as you know. We're about 50,000 units short. And so it's the struggle for local residents because 1 out of 4 of our people struggle to afford housing. It's a lot of people. The bill that I guess we'll talk about at great length, and there's several bills. First, well, let me mention Senate Bill 865. Okay, this is a bill, and I want to give a little special shout out to all the legislators, but also to Senator Stanley Chang. He fought on this concept at great length. This establishes the 99-year leasehold program on non-ceded state and county-owned land near public transit stations. This is one of Stanley's priorities, along with other great colleagues like his chair in the House, which we're going to get to hear from you, brother. So thank you. So we're going to sign that bill. It's very important. Other bills, expanding public housing, access to public housing, authority housing, House Bill 674. Thank you, Chair. Fantastic. And then Senate Bill 898. That's the rent supplement program for Kapuna housing. So you can see we have to attack this from every different direction. Some of it's for Kapuna housing, some of it's just for our young workforce that can't afford to be here. So these are creative bills. They are solutions that have been long coming, and we're going to have to continue to make things a little bit easier. The last comments I'll make before I lean over to Chair Hashimoto is that we took action early, for example, with the emergency proclamation on homelessness. Why? Because it doesn't hurt anybody to do that. It streamlines some of the process. Building on a parking lot to get tiny homes, get people off the street, was really just a positive thing for all. So sometimes it's more efficient to do that. We are working with our colleagues, possibly in the next couple of weeks, you will see this, a housing declaration of emergency similarly to address some of the, I would say, bottlenecks on housing. But they've made it a lot easier for us by putting into play solutions that we can realize right now. So if it's okay, why don't I call up the Chair and he can address some of these key topics.
Thank you, Governor. And on behalf of my colleagues in the House and my Senate counterpart, Stanley Chang, in the Senate, who is traveling, I would like to thank the Governor for signing these important bills into law. These bills mark an incremental step forward in helping to alleviate our affordable housing crisis. Through these bills,
All right,
we
you're
will
listening
attempt
to a live
pilot
press
a few
conference
new
from the governor's
ideas
office
and to
on the bill
streamline
signings
existing
of
programs.
10 bills that will be going into law to address housing and homelessness in Hawaii. We'll have much more on this story coming up in later editions of Hawaii News Now. Now we want to get back to our other top stories of the day. A large fire broke out in central Paris Wednesday afternoon following a suspected explosion near Rue Saint-Jacques in the city's 5th arrondissement. A CNN producer at the scene reported over 5 teams of firefighters fighting the flames. And at last check, officials say at least 29 people have been injured, at least 4 of them critically, by the incident. Police in Paris posted a tweet asking people to avoid the area. Here on Oahu, multiple teenagers were injured when the vehicle they were in flipped. It happened at around 9 last night along Farrington Highway in Nanakuli. Police tell us a 23-year-old lost control of the SUV he was driving and veered off the roadway. They say speed appears to be a factor in the crash. Now, we're told the driver was initially listed in critical condition, but later upgraded to serious. 3 ambulance crews responded to the scene. EMS says a 15-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl were seriously injured. 2 girls aged 13 and 14 had minor injuries. Police say all passengers except 1 have been upgraded to good condition. The investigation continues. An emotional vigil was held in Leeward, Oahu, as a family holds out hope that their teenage daughter will recover and the suspects will turn themselves in. The family of Richiana de Guzman gathered in Nanakuli Beach Park last night. The 17-year-old was shot in the head Saturday night. Her family says she was out for a walk with her boyfriend. She remains on life support at the Queens Medical Center.
So this was the uplifting thing that would happen today. So the trauma team came in and they do tests, yeah? And this one doctor on the right side of her shoulder, they went pinch her. She went lift up her feet and almost kicked them in their face.
HPD says de Guzman was walking with a group of males near Ma'ili Elementary Saturday night when another group of males pulled up in an SUV and opened fire, striking her in the head.
I love you guys and I pray for you guys, yeah? That you guys put down your guns, yeah? And do the best thing and turn you guys self in.
So far, there have been no arrests and HPD has not released a description of the suspects. If you have any information, please call Crime Stoppers at 955-8300. Neo Valley Middle School says a student brought a pellet gun to campus. In a letter to parents, the vice principal says they notified police who responded immediately. It's unclear how the staff found out about the gun or what happened to the student, but the VP asked parents to discuss the dangers of guns with their children and reminded families that bringing any kind of air projectile to school can be a Class A firearm offense. The city will likely pay more than $100,000 to a naval officer officer who was forced to turn in his firearms. His attorneys say HPD violated his constitutional rights when they denied him a permit. Rick Dasog has more.
Under state law, police can deny a gun permit to an applicant who suffers from a significant mental health disorder. But after Honolulu police ordered Navy officer Michael Santucci to turn in his guns and held up his permit application in 2021, all because he received mental health counseling at Tripler Army Medical Center, he sued.
Mr. Santucci's case sort of demonstrates the attitude that HPD has towards people owning firearms. I think they view it really more as a privilege rather than a constitutional right.
His attorney says his 26-year-old client, a native of Florida, was merely receiving counseling for homesickness at Tripler. A federal judge agreed last year, saying the state can't deny Santucci a gun permit because he doesn't suffer from a significant mental illness. The ruling did not overturn state laws barring gun ownership by mentally ill residents, nor did it restrict the HPD's ability to conduct background checks. But it did force the city to settle Santucci's lawsuit by agreeing to pay him more than $102,000. The state, which is responsible for enforcing gun registration laws, must also pay $28,000. The HPD, which has since changed its firearms questionnaires after Santucci's lawsuit was filed, had no immediate comment. Gun rights advocates say the city should have settled the case long ago.
The police department could have just turned around and said, well, you know, we're wrong. We went ahead and we did this and settled it straight away. And they didn't. They dragged it out. The AG was involved. So now it's ended up costing the taxpayers $130,000.
A city council committee today approved the city's portion of the settlement, which goes to the full council next month. Rick Dasog, Hawaii News Now.
House Republicans are claiming the Department of Justice is operating on a two-tier system, one for Democrats and a much harsher one for Republicans. Now, this comes as the special counsel chosen by President Trump's Attorney General to investigate the FBI's investigation into Trump's 2016 campaign was on Capitol Hill today. Skylar Henry has more.
Special counsel John Durham told lawmakers the FBI acted too quickly, launching its probe of Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and possible ties to Russia.
The FBI was too willing to accept and use politically funded and uncorroborated opposition research, such as the Steele dossier.
Democrats say Durham spent almost 4 years and more than $6 million investigating the FBI with nothing to show for it.
You only filed 3 criminal cases. You only brought 2 cases to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
And the one conviction that you obtained, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single count and never went to trial, correct?
Correct.
But Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz accused Durham of tanking his own investigation.
I think that John Durham has been part of inoculating the deep state. I think he's in on it. I think he's part of the cover-up.
Most Republican lawmakers used the hearing to accuse President Biden of weaponizing the DOJ and FBI to attack his political opponents. They pointed to the plea deal for Hunter Biden. The president's son plans to plead guilty to 2 tax charges and will likely receive probation, versus the criminal case being brought against former President Trump for his handling of government records.
Now we have an indictment of a former president who's winning in every single poll by his opponent's Justice Department.
The White House denies those claims, saying the DOJ acts independently. And they also point out that the U.S. attorney prosecuting Hunter Biden was appointed by former President Trump. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
2 popular beach parks in East Oahu were vandalized, and neighbors are hoping for change. Casey Lund reports from Waimanalo.
Aloha from the bottom of Aloilo'i Street here, the McDonald's as you come into Waimanalo, that's the road down. And this is a really popular access point for Sherwoods, for Waimanalo Beach Park, especially for the local folks that live in this neighborhood who have been noticing some of those vandalism issues. And I want to talk to Nate Sirota from the city's Department of Parks and Recreation. And I want to kind of just focus on the last 2 incidents out here. Tell us a little bit about what happened and how quickly the city was able to get out and kind of remedy that.
Sure. So unfortunately, there was some people who had cut holes in the fences, one here by the, I think it's the hala tree right here, and also by the ironwood tree back there. And luckily, our staff were able to repair it rather quickly. And again, unfortunately, this is something that they've seen on a really fairly consistent basis, so they know how to repair it. They know, what needs to be done. And really, the silly part about them cutting this fence here is there are beach access points, I think 5 or 6 of them throughout this neighborhood here. So there's ways to get to the beach legally when this gate is closed and when, access is restricted in this particular area, which is focused more on, making sure vehicles don't go in. So it's really senseless.
Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about just the bigger picture here? How much stuff like this takes away from the Parks Department budget to do other things to improve the parks when they have to put out little fires like this? And we see this all over the county, really.
Really, it's not as much of a budgetary concern for us. We spend about $300,000 to $350,000 each year on addressing vandalism in-house, and so we budget for that, and that's part of our job. Really, the bigger concern is that the impact of public facilities. A lot of times when a bathroom or a fence like this is damaged, it impacts the amount or how the public can use it, and then also just the time. It takes our staff away from other maintenance issues, other deferred maintenance, upkeeping different things. So it will kind of set us back just a little bit, where we have to address kind of some of the more flagrant or obvious cases of vandalism, and they can't get to another piece of deferred maintenance. So, we try to get to it as best we can. And we try to prioritize these kind of repairs based off of how it's impacting the public. But really, it's more of an impact to a public facility or to the park users because these are public facilities that belong to all of us.
Yeah, and a really special and important one here, and a popular one as well. So Nate Sirota with us from the Department of Parks and Recreation. I want to remind you that there is a way to report issues, not just with the parks, but the city has hotlines for a lot of the different departments, junk vehicles, things like that. We keep that link up on Sunrise, as seen as Sunrise at HawaiiNewsNow.com. You can report those issues and try and get someone from the city out there to deal with it. We'll send things back into the studio for now.
Now to a huge conference going on in Las Vegas. Today is day 3 of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancements Convention. Our Chelsea Davis is there to break down today's events.
Aloha from the Papa Makeke here at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, where attendees can shop at this exclusive pop-up store of goods from Hawaii. There are approximately 170 vendors and hundreds of Hawaii-based products here right now that represent the unique spirit, culture, and artistry of Hawaii and its people. Day 3 of the convention is already a packed day, a full agenda with a warm welcome by Hawaii's delegation and keynote speeches by Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement Board President and newly appointed Kamehameha Schools Trustee Michelle Ka'uhane, Hawaii Tourism Authority CEO and 5-time Bellator MMA flyweight champ Ilimale McFarland, plus a performance by Miss Kiki Hula, and then breakout workshops which include justice for Native Hawaiians, affordable housing for Native Hawaiians, how to stay Hawaiian outside of Hawaii, and a tourism policy roundtable. The day today concludes with a special performance tonight by Maui's very own Josh Tatofi. That's the latest here from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Chelsea. We'll check in with you later. Okay, before we leave you all this afternoon, here is something to think about as you eat your lunch. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture has approved lab-grown or cultivated meat to be produced and sold in the U.S. So Good Meat, it's a company that produces this lab-grown meat, advertises its products as meat without slaughter and a more humane approach to eating meat. Now, the cell-based proteins are grown in a giant vat, much like what you find at a brewery. Supporters hope it will help fight climate change by reducing the need for traditional animal agriculture, which emits harmful greenhouse gases. That's going to do it for us on This Is Now. We're going to have much more coverage coming up first at 4 right here on KHNL.